How did I get here? Well, if you want to know, pull up your chair, pour a mug. You're having coffee with the prophet. This week, we want to deal with the dream room. Last week, we had, and this is part two. Last week, we've dealt with the ministry of Joseph House, why I keep going back, why I keep going back to school. So today we want to more or less, if we can't, we build the solutions in the dream room. Today we're going to deal with the dream room. Last week we dealt with the ministry of Joseph House. And in the dream room, you may say, well, what is the difference between the ministry of Joseph House and the dream room? Well, the ministry of Joseph House is where we unpack the dreams. The dream room is where we build the solution. So you may say in the ministry of Joseph House is where insight takes place. The dream room is where we get you to the solutions. We build solutions. Try to get you to a point of really now a place where you take responsibility for that dream and apply that in your life to go forward and be all that you can be. That's the difference. So we want to unpack that. What are the things and what we want to focus on? And one of the things was, or the dream itself was, why I keep going back. The school. Again, where if with any dream, if it's constant and you just can't get away from it, the Lord's trying to get your attention. It's trying to get your attention. In other words, to say, well, wait a minute. Let's take a second look at this. You know, it's almost like in life, you ever felt like you're just beating yourself up against a brick wall, so to speak? Well, if you pay attention to those dreams, they can give you some directions. Now, I'm not talking about any type of dreams or what have you, but normally, if there's something you can't get away from, that dream is trying to tell you something. There's some information that's trying to get to you. And I always say, with whatever type of dream you have, and if you can't get away from that dream, think about where you're at. Here's a good lesson. Think about where you're at in the natural, or where have you been the last few months or what have you. And pay attention to that dream. And see if that somehow don't line up with some things that you're going through and you're dealing with. So school, as I shared with you before, school is not always bad. School is a lesson to be learned. And a lot of times what's happening is we miss out on certain things at that particular time. And then later on, we have to repeat that now that we can go forward. So now watch this. Let me just give you some examples. So a lot of times when you're saying going back to school, it's not just going back for that lesson or to deal with that bully or to deal with that teacher or to just deal with those things that I dealt with and I didn't really like when I was back in school. A lot of times what's happening is it's a metaphor with certain things that's going on in your life. So as example is what school represent. The teacher represented that of authority. So a lot of times there's certain things in your life, I don't know, it's several times. You could have those dreams when you perhaps confuse or seem to be stuck. That can be an occupation, in relationships and everything else. So if you keep repeating the same thing, sometimes, now I'm going to use this example for a relationship. Sometimes, I hear or I counsel sometimes, young ladies will be like, well, why it just seems as if I keep getting that same guy. Well, what happens is there's some things that you need to change in your life. It's some things that you keep repeating that that are attracting you perhaps to that particular type person. And you've got to be clear about what it is that you want. Or then what happens is when the right one come along, it's almost like he'll do one thing and you'll be like, you know what? You'll get triggered. Because if you're not healed, you'll get triggered. And you'll be like, well, you know what? So you'll sabotage your own self in that relationship. Now, I don't think this is going to work. And you don't have a real clear reason. I just don't think it's going to work. And a lot of times what's happening is because of past traumas that's stopping you from moving forward in your goals. Same thing. You might say, hey, this year I want to go to school. I want to, further my education. I want to start a business, anything. I want to do a YouTube channel. Whatever those things is, I want to write a book. But you'll find yourself being hindered. Just for whatever reason, you'll start, but you won't finish certain things. Why? Because a lot of times there's things that you have not really necessarily dealt with. So you hit something, you hit a brick wall, and you throw your hands up. But no, you've got to deal with the things that have held you back from going forward. So the lessons you'll learn in school, a lot of times the lessons you're going to learn in life, when it says go back to school, right? That lesson is not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean that, okay, the teacher is the one giving you the lessons. Life is doing that for you. Now, life is the teacher. What am I saying? Pay attention to where your life is going. I've always used this example. I think I use it. I'm pretty sure I used it last week in the ministry of Joseph. In the ministry of Joseph's house with interpreting dreams, the sheet of paper. First of all, let's say this. If that dream keep coming, constantly having that dream, number one, you write it down. Then number two, to work through that, you want to just draw a line in the center of that paper. Put the negative things and the positive things. What seem to hold you back and the things that you want to go forward. In anything, in relationships and everything else. Now, what happens is this is having you get more of a clearer understanding of where you at. A clear direction of where you're going. And you have a tendency now, you can begin to look at things right before you. And saying one of the things, what happens is, before we can take responsibility of life, we also have to get out of that victim mode. He hurt me, she hurt me, or I can't do this because. In order to go forward and take control of your life, you've got to take responsibility of certain things. So now, when you move forward, there's tools and there's certain things. You learn those lessons. Life begin to teach you. If you pay attention, the problem is a lot of times it's just so much going on in our life. But if you will slow down in prayer, in meditation, whatever your thing is, in nature, just start spending time with yourself and going within. Slow down. Start writing something, even a journal. You'll find that the solution is within. And when you be totally honest with yourself, one thing I found out, even at times, even in my own life, sometimes the hardest thing is not just to be honest with ourselves, but to make those changes in our lives. It's easy to say it's because of someone else or a circumstance or a situation. But now when there's certain things that you've got to change, I think I've shared in the past, if you got to change of it, people, places, and things. There might be certain books you got to pick up, start reading. I don't know, something on YouTube, something positive. In social media, a lot of times you got to focus on some things positive. And also what you got to do is narrow things down. Because you know what I found out? Sometimes too much information will confuse you as well. Narrow things down and be clear about what you want in life. And only you can determine that. What is it that you really want in life? What is the things that's holding you back? You've got to determine that. So when you write these things down, you get clear. I'm giving you the tool, but I'm not doing it for you. The thing is to pull them out, and now you've got to make your decision. If you don't really notice it yourself, to say, well, wow, until that light bulb goes off, you'll never make those changes. So if anything, I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you this week. Do something different. Do something you've never done before. Be bold about what you're doing. Face your fears. That's the challenge. I don't know what it is. You know. Do something different. And listen, and also, if this is being a blessing, encouraging your life, let me know. Leave a comment as you go forward. But I'm going to leave you with that charge or that lesson. This week here, you step out into the deep. You make a difference. Hey, you've been having coffee with the prophet.